This is episode 741 of the Rio Grande Foundation's Tipping Point, New Mexico. I'm Paul Gessing.
And I'm Wally Drangmeister.
I'm president of the Rio Grande Foundation, New Mexico's free market think tank. You can find out more about the foundation at riograndefoundation.org. Wally, if I may say so, especially given that we're just coming off the Labor Day holiday, we are in an action-packed, chock full of lots and lots of stuff going on mode right now. And we got a lot to get to in this particular episode. So we're going to get right down to it. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is just bad or crazy. But this is the land of enchantment as we see it right now. So we'll start off with a story that appeared yesterday. That would be Monday morning on the front page above the fold in the Albuquerque Journal. And it dealt with a topic that we've talked about a fair amount on this particular show, which is the deteriorating situation with our roads and the fact that our illustrious politicians in New Mexico, well, the headline, this is Dan Boyd's article, State faces looming funding crunch to pay for road constructions, repairs. You would be led to believe strongly that New Mexico is somehow in an impoverished place, in a difficult situation financially. And let's face it, roads are among the very, very basic things that most libertarians, there's some libertarians who
even think that the government should be out of the road business.
And I'm probably in that category, but I'm also in the realm of reality, and we have to deal with the fact that the government in New Mexico does build, they are the ones that build, maintain, and fund the roads. And so we were treated to this story in which they complain because the gas tax doesn't go as far as it used to. New Mexico's 17-cent per gallon gas tax is the fourth lowest in the nation. Roads are crumbling. They all acknowledge this. Mo Maestas, state senator, a Democrat, who's actually one of the moderate ones, and I've reached out to him, and maybe he'll even come on and defend this statement on the show, but he said that it was a failure of government not to gradually increase the gas tax rate over the past 30 years. Multiple bills have been filed on the topic. None have been signed into law. And long and short of it, our roads are bad, but the folks in charge, specifically the Democrats and the people who work for Department of Transportation on the various transportation entities, say that the gas tax doesn't go as far as it used to. And so we're struggling to get our roads back into shape, and we don't have the money to do it. Gosh, Wally.
Yeah, boy, what a shocker there, Paul. Let me back up a little to, I believe, Economics 101 for me. One of the things that helped modern societies to form is this thing called money. And what it is a way to exchange value, but it has something that's called fungibility, meaning you can buy anything you want with it. And so, hey, did we get a little behind on our roads? Yeah, maybe we did. Maybe he's right. If you want it just to come from the gas tax. But guess what? The legislature could do a catch-up appropriation for road funds, keep the gas tax as it is. They're sitting on a ton of money. Problem solved. What's so hard about that? So then the other thing is that this problem is, and they rightly so said it was because, cars get better gas mileage. Heaven forbid, it's like that cars get better gas mileage, causing problems for the state of New Mexico, those evil car companies. But the other issue is they just totally duck the fact that electric vehicles, and again, they're not turning out to be the big thing that we thought they were going to be, or at least in the time frame from a market penetration point of view, but they don't pay any gas taxes. But guess what? They use the roads like crazy because they're very, very heavy. A sedan that's a EV is a lot heavier than a sedan that's a gas or even a diesel vehicle. So this issue's been out there for a long time. But the three the three strategic planners of New Mexico, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, evidently didn't realize that this was on the way. But again, I don't think raising the gas tax, we don't need to raise taxes. If we need a chunk to get caught up, allocate a chunk of money is what I would say. Don't act like, oh my goodness, the sky is falling. This one particular fund doesn't have the money it needs. Roads are important. And, Paul, the trains run on time in New Mexico. Guess why? Because we only have one that carries passengers and nobody's on it. But roads are key to the economics of our state.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to have let them get that bad before they realize, Houston, or in this case, Santa Fe, we have a problem. Not a good look. So, and let's hear what their plan is for this in the upcoming 30-day session.
Yeah, well, this could be done in a special session if we had a priority there. But in fact, the DOT, Department of Transportation data, according to the Journal, shows New Mexico residents are currently paying $2,000 per year in costs related to the state's deteriorated roads. So, we have this situation. Now, here is, as we are wont to do, the Rio Grande Foundation provides thoughts as to what we might do about this.
It's almost like you have a tank with thoughts in it, Paul. What would you call something like that?
It can't drive on New Mexico roads, though. They're too bumpy and too deteriorated.
They are in bad, Paul. They are in bad
shape. They are. This is not a joking matter. Yeah, this is a life and death situation we're talking about. I mean, yes, it is funny because we've talked about this and explained it on this show, and anybody who's got two brain cells to rub together knows this is a problem, but the politicians are just incapable, unwilling to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned levying a fee on electric vehicles. That's been introduced by Democrats in the legislature. The governor has not endorsed that, and it has died time and time again. Direct a portion. Remember, we have all this unspent capital outlay. Now, our capital outlay process is an absolute joke. It's widely derided across the country. They call it the Christmas tree bill. Sweep part of that $7.2 billion in unspent capital outlay, and then in the future, demand the capital outlay actually be used to benefit New Mexicans in the form of road construction. I don't know, take 50% of the whole pot and dedicate it to roads and rest areas and those kinds of things. Address the tribal lack of gas tax payment on tribal lands by making sure that they are taxed on those gasoline payments. The state tax is applied to that. I know this is really crazy, wild stuff, but eliminate the state's prevailing Davis-Bacon wage, which artificially inflates the cost of road projects. And then, of course, as you mentioned, we are sitting on a permanent fund surplus of $64 billion. We've got funds for this, that, and the other thing. Now we've got a fund for Medicaid. Maybe we should actually start a road permanent fund. I'm the last person in the world that wants another permanent fund, but if it's actually for what is a core function of government, policing and roads are probably two things.
And education. If they're going to be involved in education, they probably ought to do a good job at that either. But they don't either. So
that's a different issue.
Yeah.
They shouldn't actually be in the business of educating the students, setting up the schools. They should be maybe funding certain portions of it. Anyway, that's a separate issue. But
okay.
$64 billion plus all of the money that they've spent in recent years that was never a priority. We knew the road, we were dealing with $3.5 billion budget surpluses year after year for several years, and they didn't make this a priority. We knew that the situation was not good on our roads. So,
when Paul, in COVID, people just shut down, and you weren't driving, and there wasn't as much, and it was easy not to notice. It's been a while. You know what I mean? It's one of those, there are no more excuses. And, Paul, just driving up to Farmington, for example, you have to.
It's a bad one.
Well, and what happens if you have trailer brakes and your trailer bumps up on a big bump, it'll leave skid marks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank goodness for that feature, because those skid marks show you where the big bumps
Mm-hmm.
are going up to Farmington. You know, and the speed limit's pretty high there. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're driving the speed limit, you'll hit those. They're a danger. Much less some of the other far rural roads of New Mexico are just crumbling disasters. It's
Yep.
crazy out there.
Now, as if I designed it this way to highlight a failure of government on public safety. Now, this is a Channel 13 KRQE story with the chef's kiss headline of City of Albuquerque ups bus security and cleans streets ahead of state fair. Now, this has been an ongoing issue, not just here in New Mexico, but certainly here in Albuquerque. Uh, and of course, our good friend Gavin Newsom, governor of California, was taken to task for when Xi of China showed up in San Francisco. Suddenly, the hobos were off the streets, and things were much better looking in San Francisco. But here we are in Albuquerque. It's fall, and as I'm proud of this start of the blog post. Fall is undoubtedly the best time of year in Albuquerque. The state fair, cooler temperatures, chilies roasting, balloon fiesta, and the streets suddenly become cleaner and safer. Um, and balloon fiesta is obviously one aspect of this. Now, I will let the cat out of the bag and say that I drove Central all the way up from downtown to Juan Tabo this morning. I'm not seeing a lot of difference along Central, despite the fact that
Right.
the state fair is taking place uh, right there. So, but I will read some of the aspects of this Channel 13 article, and here's what's going on. So, Albuquerque Ride says officers will check bus platforms and go on the buses to make sure things are running smoothly. They have 21 transit officers for the city, the largest in the history. They're also using private security guards to the Louisiana and Central bus platform for the duration of the state fair. And then last month, according to Channel 13, Mayor Tim Keller shared the National Guard would be helping during the fair. So you have not one, not two, but three different entities all involved in theoretically cleaning up and making things safer, specifically, of course, on the buses, which, I bet you if you did an analysis, the number of people, the percentage of people riding buses to the state fair is probably between 2 and 5%. It's a very small number. But yeah, this is another part of the trend where we just let things go to hell 90% of the year. And then for a few weeks around State Fair and Balloon Fiesta, suddenly the streets of Albuquerque look a lot better, or at least there's more public safety administration around. It doesn't hurt that, of course, it's an election year as well. So if the mayor were smart, he would be in a full court press to clean things up in advance of early voting and during early voting in the election. But yeah, I can tell you, Central, downtown, neither of which have gotten any better. In fact, if anything, I've seen more people there that perhaps got moved away from the state fairgrounds. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and Paul, this is a question I should know the answer. Do we have like special park and rides from the buses to the state fair anymore? I know they used to have those when I lived on the west side many years ago. I don't know if they even
I don't
have
think
those.
so. I think those are
Yeah,
for Balloon Fiesta
yeah, and
alone.
this is just cleaning up the buses. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have the equivalent, of air marshals on our buses because we have such a bad crime problem with buses. And I'm with you. If there aren't those special park and rides, I don't think there's many people riding the bus to the fair. But having said that, we know our bus system's a disaster.
Right.
So yeah, good job on that. If you're going to have the thing. Basically, I guess what happens if shoplifters get on board? Do they say no? You can't get on board with your shoplifted stuff. You have to stay here. I'm not sure what their plan is, but yeah. Good, good. Why don't and good. If we're gonna have that's like it's as far as it goes. This is a step. So
It's a step. Yeah, it's a step. Oh,
it's not a big step. It's a self inflicted a lot of times step in that they don't require anything to get on the bus.
well, I mean, let's take it in a bigger context. Let's be real. The reason that the governor is looking to move the state fair in the first place at a cost of hundreds of millions, if not
Right.
more than $1 billion, is because of the poor public safety situation in that part of town. And I think she is hoping, realistically, that by somehow moving the state fair, largely bulldozing what's there and redeveloping the entire thing, that somehow that will, by osmosis, literally and figuratively, lead to an improvement in that particular part of town. Now, where the state fair goes is an open question, etc. I am not among those who believe that, uh, yeah, if you could, if it was free, I suppose, in some mythical world, would it make sense to give the fair some more space to grow and have more of their facilities somewhere else, but also near an interstate highway, near facilities and all that? I suppose that could all be done, but I don't know how or where they would do that. But it is clearly a decision that's going to cost massive amounts of money, and it's being done literally to avoid the deterioration in one part of the city of Albuquerque. Now, the war zone has been the war zone for a long time. Don't let the international district fool you. This is not an area that's been great, but it has gotten worse and worse. And I can tell you that it's as bad as it's ever been just this morning.
Well, and yes, and I was the last 2 days I've gone to a food establishment on Central, and just not good.
Yeah.
There are, basically drunk or stoned out of their mind people lingering around,
Mm-hmm.
some of the places, and much less the encampments that are a little bit further down Central where I went. So yes, I'm not seeing a big difference there. And to your point, Paul, so okay, you bulldoze it, you build a utopian dream of greenhouses with EV charging stations and whatever, and walkability on that area where the state fair is now, and you don't clean up Central. Really, what are you going to have? What have you accomplished? That's your point. And guess what? We could clean up Central before we did all that, and you might have a little faith that that might be a good thing to do. Oh, and one final point, man, if you're a business owner or a person that lives in that area, and I know some that are in both situations, I really feel sorry for them. Man,
Mm-hmm.
they are taking the brunt of the lack of enforcement from the city of Albuquerque. And then the other thing that happens, you don't want to complain too much, particularly if you're a business, because then your business is the nuisance because there's all those people there, even though there's no law enforcement. So, yeah, we have a problem. And so we are going to put some window dressing on it by having people ride the bus for security and maybe get rid of the state fair. But if you don't address the underlying situation, what have you really done? It's Albuquerque Central in particular is getting to be like this. I don't know. It's the sad story of inner city Detroit. We try all these crazy problems try to solve them without addressing the fundamental underlying issue, and then wonder why things aren't getting better.
I think if New Mexico was in need of a new motto, that would be the motto right there. Not addressing underlying factors, throwing money at it.
Yeah.
Instead, that would be if you could kind of tighten that up, it would be a great motto for the
Yeah,
state of New
I'll work on
Mexico.
that.
That's the reality. Speaking of throwing money at things that don't quite pan out, uh, you remember Maxeon Solar, Wally?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Well, it was a little over 2 years ago that our governor made a splashy announcement that was going to involve lots of tax dollars, but uh, hasn't. Let's just put it that way. In August of 2023, the governor said that Maxeon was this big solar company. They were going to invest $1 billion in New Mexico and build a massive solar panel manufacturing facility. Uh, that has not happened. In fact, they maybe a year ago stated that Maxeon did that they were going to occupy an existing building and redevelop that for their purposes, and that they were going to be manufacturing solar panels by early 2026. Well, here we are in late 2025, and I talked to a friend in the commercial real estate market. He's one of those commercial brokers, and he said that he and his colleagues have not heard anything about Maxeon Solar pulling permits or doing anything at the building that they occupy or are supposed to occupy in Albuquerque. And I went and did a little more digging, as I'm wont to do, and figured out that Maxeon's first half of 2024 revenue was $372 million. Their first half of 2025 revenue was $39 billion.
Wow.
This is not a company that's going to build $1 billion facility, or likely any facility with those kinds of revenues at hand. And then I looked and found that as of late 2024, so still under the Biden administration, the reason that they've had so many problems, or one of the reasons at least, is because there are some allegations of forced labor in China and violations of a law relating to the Uyghur population in China. Now, I don't know the veracity or the lack of veracity of it, but it's enough that the Border Patrol has been limiting their ability to import their panels from China. So the fact is that this is yet another big, flashy announcement from our governor that, at least as it stands now, has gone absolutely nowhere. I guess the good news is that we haven't spent a ton of money on this thing at this point. Certainly not what $1 billion investment would bring in, but will Maxeon ever relocate to New Mexico or locate in New Mexico? It is looking farther and farther unlikely that will ever happen.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. And I tend to go to the stock price for these publicly traded companies. And, back as recently as 2021, their stock was going for over $5,000 a share. And now it's like just under $4 a share. So they've lost nearly 100% of the value, 99.81% of the value if the site I'm looking at is accurate. So, yeah, the odds of them going forward is not very big right now. So, and as you say, at least we didn't build them a solar panel port or something like that.
Right. But it would be nice, and again, the media, I get it. They've had their issues, downsizes, etc. This is something that should be reported. The last story I saw from New Mexico relating to Maxeon was May 1st of 2025. We are now, in early September. Still nothing is happening, and it seems like it is worth reporting on and making it clear what has actually gone on and what is happening. That would be due diligence on the part of our friends in the media. I know we're just dealing with fireballs left and right here. There is a lot going on. The latest is the governor has decided to hand out some big pay raises, as Diane Dennis would call them, big fat bonuses
across the board, right?
Not across the board. Mostly to her top lieutenants and political allies. She did this, by the way, in 2024 as well as 2021, and now we have pay raises of up to 26%. For some government employers, roughly 20 senior staffers, and of course, the governor, defended this all, saying the governor's senior staff salaries were adjusted to reflect the extraordinary level of expertise and experience they bring to New Mexico. These seasoned professionals could command higher compensation in the private sector, but chose public service. Well, if they can afford more in the private sector. I highly suggest they take the private sector up on that, especially since there is not a state in the country that is worse governed than here in New Mexico. We are uh, dealing with incompetence at all levels of government, but especially in Michelle Lujan Grisham's administration. And the idea that these people deserve raises is absolutely ludicrous. Yeah, if New Mexico starts being ranked number one is too unrealistic, but how about number 25?
Well, heck, Paul, I would say you'd deserve a bonus if we were ranked 40th in some big
There you
things. You
go.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Up from 50, 51st, depending on whether you put in Puerto Rico or D.C.
Yeah. How about some incentives here? If we get to education high levels, I mean, shoot, 26% is a bargain. If we somehow got up to 25th as a state, I would give all the teachers, everybody needs a 10% bonus. Why not? Crime, the economy, poverty.
It'd be like the Oprah Winfrey show. You get a car, you get a car.
There you go.
You get a car.
Why not? Yeah, at least we would be paying for them doing something to improve our state. It is clear that we are just handing out money to these highly paid staffers for whatever connection they have to the governor and nothing else.
Yeah, and interestingly, depending on Paul, if they're new to state government, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But the way the pension system works in terms of your highest salary for a number of years, it could, for some longtime bureaucrats that have been in the New Mexico retirement system for a long time, that could be quite a lovely gift indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yet again, another news item here of note. The let's see, special session is pending. October 1st is when the governor has said she will call the legislature back. We've talked a little bit about the nuances and the details here. The big one is that the ICE facility shutdown is, at least as it stands now, off the agenda. Here are the points that the governor says she wants the legislature to consider. Mostly just involves spending money, funding rural health care delivery to allow stabilization grants for, we'll just call them hospitals. So, basically making up the difference for hospitals. Of course, these cuts, reductions from the big, beautiful bill aren't going to take effect for over a year and a half. So this is a lot of politics at play here. She wants to take action to make health insurance premiums more affordable in the marketplace for New Mexicans losing Medicaid coverage. I'm not sure what that looks like. It might be nice if she did that for all New Mexicans, because I got news for her. Medical coverage is a lot more expensive when you're not on the welfare program than it is for those who are on the welfare program. Most of those people on Medicaid, they need to get a job and get covered in any way that they can, and maybe a subsidized program through Obamacare. But at least a lot of these are able-bodied workers that were put under the Obamacare. New investment in food assistance. Presumably, this is replacing the SNAP reductions. And funding for public broadcasting. So now we go from a federal government-run media outlet to a state-funded media outlet. I'm sure they will be very on point in taking on the governor and her positions and really exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse and all the bad policies that are enacted in Santa Fe. But yeah, it's just Santa Claus coming in October rather than December here at the state level.
Yes, and as we alluded to, are there some things that might merit a special session? Maybe the road's falling apart. That's something, because there's not a lot of time right now to get a lot of road work done before winter comes. A lot of places that need it, you can't do it except in the summer. But if we got going on this now, maybe come spring, we would be able to let contracts and start to work on the roads. But no, we're not going to do that. And then the public broadcasting is a very interesting one. So they didn't defund public broadcasting, they defunded the Corporation for
Mm-hmm.
Public Broadcasting. And even though it's out of business, guess how many, the last I looked, how many public broadcasting stations have gone out of business, Paul?
I'm gonna go with 0 on that one.
That's the latest report I saw. So yeah, so it is interesting. It's one of those things. It's like this big overarching thing that Corporation for Public Broadcasting isn't there anymore, but the stations still seem to be there. So we'll see how much money they get and if that will make a difference in their coverage. My take is on KNME, the TV station does a little more local stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
the public radio side of things, there's not a lot of New Mexico centric content coming out of there anymore. So it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things. We'll see if that will change, but I'm sure we'll have a lot of hand wringing. I'm sure the concept of I bet we need to we'll need to watch some hearings and use AI to count the number of times that the word Trump or Trump administration is cited, because I have a feeling that's also going to be a big part of this, is blaming everything that's bad is probably his fault. So well, yeah, we'll see. These special sessions, man, they've been a letdown recently in recent history, and so I will not be able to be let down this time, Paul, because I have a zero point 0.0 expectation of this session. So,
Yeah, well, I'm confident that they will hand out plenty of money because that is one of the few things that they do effectively. Of course, they don't generate the money effectively because that all comes from the oil and gas industry as a primary rule. It's just about handing the money out. And this is clear posturing for future political endeavors on behalf of the governor. She wants to make sure that even though these cuts, these reductions are not happening right away, that she is seen as the person who is putting the resources out there to address this potential issue. All right. In other news from our dear leader, Lujan Grisham, today's front page of the newspaper, but this story was sort of broken yesterday by uh, many reporters. The governor wants New Mexico to be the first to launch universal childcare for free. Uh, so I'm not sure exactly how she plans to do this, but uh, the indication from, again, Dan Boyd at the Albuquerque Journal is it's supposed to take effect on November 1st. But if you read news reports about it, there are also things that need to happen in the legislative session, including the fulfillment of additional $120 million to fund this program. Now, I personally will say that I think she did this just for this headline. New Mexico to be first to launch universal child care. I think this is what she gets out of the deal. It's kind of like the Maxeon deal. Whatever happens to the actual program is a secondary thought. So here we go. First and foremost, this currently childcare is given to anyone below 400% of the federal poverty level. So the biggest net policy change is that you remove the 400% FPL limitation and it becomes universal. So this now will become a very significant subsidy for people at higher income levels. What is 400% of the poverty level? Now, for a household of 3 people, we'll go with that. That is $106,600. That's a pretty decent salary in New Mexico for 3 people. And I was going through these and I couldn't make hide nor hair and tried to do analysis of, well, when you talk about household side, are you talking about 2 adults and a child? Or are you talking about 1 adult and 2 children? Either way,
Yeah, either way, that's good money.
That's
So
good money.
That's either mom and dad each making 50 grand, or one or the other making over 100. That's good.
Yeah. So this is a very generous subsidy already.
Or if there's 3 adults in the family, they're each making 33. But guess what? You don't need childcare if they're adults. So
exactly. So so this again takes that cap out. So we're talking above 400% of the federal poverty level. Currently, the Early Childhood Education Care Department spends $463 million. So this is an added $120 million that they're looking for to take that to $583 million. Of course, that's likely to be just a starting point. And there's a bunch of other provisions and related items to that. But and we're going to dovetail the last subject into this and then the roads. The governor loves, and I have said many times on this show that it is very hard for me to understand her mentality. I think, again, this is all about a headline in the newspaper and on the news. This is whatever happens next is kind of whatever. But we are at a position right now where CYFD, the president or the head of that entity, the Children, Youth, and Families Department, the secretary, it has either stepped down or been fired, we believe fired, because of complete and total, we'll just say, failure of CYFD. And now we're taking funds for this universal benefit that's available currently to anybody making less than 400% of the poverty level and going all the way up to whatever. There's no limit. And not doing competent things at the administrative agencies that exist to assist children. And of course, as we started out, the roads are falling apart. Like, I could not get to sleep last night. I will be completely honest with you, Wally. It is not
you
often.
You had to get your hyperventilation bag out to calm down.
I was it was just turning around in my head because I cannot wrap my head around how anyone in their right mind would make this set of decisions that our governor is doing. But here we are.
Let me start small.
Okay.
It depends.
The governor is small.
Not
only in stature, but in mentality.
So the key is launch. What does launch mean? We launched it. I think
I'd like to launch her.
But it's launched. It's in the journal. It's launched.
Yeah.
So can she appropriate hundreds of millions of dollars on an annual basis without the legislature? I don't think so. Who knows what launch means. And, Paul, I have lost track of the price, the quality, the issues of daycare, to be quite honest, because of my personal
You don't
situation.
have little kids.
I don't have little kids. And, I have a couple daughters that have families, but they're not using any of those systems at this point. So the answer is who knows, but what could go wrong here? You know what I mean? What could go wrong? And so how are we going to do this? I believe that, it's a series of grants and other things for the private sector to do this kind of childcare. And I reading that, it's one of those things. I feel like the announcement, once I read it, I knew less than before. There was no information in there in terms of what it really means. So it's hard to comment, but it's like, we have universal everything. So we have universal college funding, we have universal daycare, and we have universal. You got your headline, and we'll figure out what happens. But I do think the legislature might have something to say about it. So.
Yeah. Now, speaking for the Republicans, they were quoted in the Santa Fe New Mexican as calling this nannies for millionaires, which is a legitimate critique considering what this actually does.
Although if I were a millionaire, would I want to put my child in the state-directed childcare system? I'm not sure about that anyway. So, but
and exactly yes, what this is going to look like in practice is a little bit hard to understand at this point. Now, George Munoz, his mentality is always the same about these things. Total price tag might not be sustainable, said Senator Munoz. He's Senate Finance Committee chair. He seems to be pretty critical of this whole idea. I don't know how they're going to explain that to people when they don't have the money to pay for everyone's childcare. Of course, he's using the poverty mindset, saying that down the road, oil and gas won't be such a big factor in our economy. And he's probably right at some point. The growth in available resources from oil and gas will likely continue to slow down. It doesn't mean that we're poor as a state, as he has said. It just means that you're not going to experience that kind of growth. You took oil and gas away, it would be a whole different can of worms, so to speak, and we would be cutting lots and lots of government. It just, yeah, the headline seems nice, but how this actually gets implemented and what actually the net effect is. And I'll wrap things up with this. Didn't we not have pre-K? What is the difference between this and the pre-K? Are we funding both of those separately? I can't fully understand, and I need to do some research and figure out how this differs. Or is the governor simply using the term childcare as a proxy for pre-K?
Yeah, does this cover basically, infants until you're in pre-K, or is, what is this?
Yeah.
And I read the article.
Because I mean, pre-K
a lot of details aren't there.
Theoretically, is for 3 and 4 year olds. Now,
right.
You unfortunately, for better or for worse, you can't really teach them anything of significance. You can teach them how to get along, how to share, all those kinds of things, colors, shapes, maybe, but it's really limited. So
Keynesian economics comes in first grade, I believe. So
to recap, and we've never done a recap, but
I'm glad you can recap because I could not.
The state cannot afford roads and repairing the roads. Albuquerque is now invested in private security, transit officers, and the National Guard, all attempting to make the buses better during the state fair, while the war zone and international district, and not to mention downtown and other parts of town, remain as is. Maxeon Solar, splashy announcement. Where's the beef? That's a reference I just came up with from the 80s. Yeah. Rewarding friends in government with big pay raises. Special session, October 1st. We're going to hand out more money then. And then free childcare, whatever that exactly means. So while CYFD completely remains completely and totally a disaster area. So it is not a surprise why New Mexico is at the very bottom of a lot of lists, including bang for your buck and governed, well-governed, any list involving government. This episode is a pretty great example of why New Mexico is dead last. It is an absolute bleep show in terms of the way we are prioritizing or not prioritizing or just throwing crap against the wall when it comes to government. But that is where we are. So, any last words, Wally?
Paul, those that know me don't find me in this situation. I am speechless yes. At this point. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I knew where you were going, but there's not much else to be said, and we will conclude right there. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Find all episodes at tippingpointsnm.com or at the Rio Grande Foundation's YouTube channel. Subscribe to the show at Apple, Stitcher, or tell Google Home to play Tipping Point New Mexico. Thanks to Path 3 Marketing for producing this show.